This time it is my pleasure to call the October 2024 meeting of your Hanover Borough Council Finance Personnel Committee meeting to order. We're going to begin this evening with public comment. First at top of the list is Mr. Isaac Reston.
Oh, what happened? Call him.
You usually have it.
Thanksgiving should have can hear me, that's it, right?
Yeah, they rearranged down here and I neglected to put it back.
No problem. Make sure my voice is heard. Everyone hear me all right? So I
One
can
of those
begin?
over there. I think.
Awesome, perfect. So my name is Isaac Riston, that's ISAACRISTON, 36 Hanover Street. There's 3 items I'd like to talk about. The first one is the item. I want to thank, awesome, perfect. Do I gotta hold it? I gotta hold it here. So, there we go. Perfect.
Here, take this one too.
All right.
I have one sitting over here.
Go ahead, Isaac.
Okay, all right. I guess I'll start again. All right, perfect.
How do you spell your name?
Oh, my name.
No.
Yeah. First item is number 3, budget presentation. So really, I want to thank everyone that did a fantastic job. Being there for all 5 hours of it, or close to, was an amazing experience, and one that I'm really happy about. To talk to citizens in Ward 5, as well as the rest of the borough. Being able to talk to other council members, other districts around us, and be able to talk about what we're doing and why was the presentation so long and everything else included, was just a really rewarding experience. Some critiques I would say is I would love to have all of the borough staff have PowerPoints. That means that for people watching and for me there, being able to see what's going on, it allows us to have a better understanding of what's going on, rather because you guys get all this information and I have to hear what you're talking about, and sometimes they get confused and I don't want to quote someone or something else without having accurate information. So those PowerPoint presentations add a lot to the conversation from the public point of view. Second, I want to jump to the 7B, appointment of interim library director. I was at the Penn Township meeting when Ms. Baldwin was presenting to them everything that the library did last year. And to say that they were not floored and excited would be an understatement. They were very happy, and they were actually really happy that I was there. Apparently a lot of them watch these meetings, so to see me there was interesting, to say the least, but was a good time. They were really happy with the efforts, and they were really excited to see that instead of being asked for $98,000, they're being asked around $64,000 for their fair share contribution, which they're really excited about, and hopefully they're able to meet this year, or rather, I guess, next year. That work was done because of our former library director, Ms. Baldwin, and then our finance director, Ms. Kaufman, as well. Again, the work that they do helps our library and our taxpayers. It's something that we need to invest in, rather than just getting rid of our current library system to privatization. It's not going to work the way we want it to. Again, we have a library that's 7 days a week. No other library in your county can meet our standards, our staff, and our events that we do. And the reason that is because it is a government institution, not a private one. And again, private is a bit loose. It's a volunteer sector, but really that word kind of sums it up pretty well. And again, I imagine Penn Township is really happy to have people come and talk to them. I mean, Conewago, for the first time in 4 years, gave money because of the work that our former library director and current finance director are doing. Again, that's something that they're able to put their hat on for being here, less than a year, right? And getting another municipality to donate money to our library, as well
How
as
much money did they
Conewago's
give?
fair share is around $3,000.
And that's what they gave? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for the update. Okay,
Um,
that I didn't have.
It's okay. So that is,
$1 million operating budget. Yeah.
that's right, Scott Rowland. It is $1 million operating budget, but to be honest, when you're talking about $1 million operating budget for what it gives to utility for our community, I imagine it's worth the money, as well as you probably say the same thing for our police, our firefighter staff, or as well as our.
Mr. Reston, if you could just stick to your comments.
Will do.
please.
In comparison, Penn Township was actually having a meeting that time again to focus on their garbage. No one is bidding to pick up their bags anymore, so they have to redesign how their garbage is working. okay? Just as another example of why going private route might not be the best if no one in the private sector is working for you or the volunteer sector is working for you. It's why YCS is considering cutting staff and hours next year because they're having trouble. Again, these are issues that you're going to be dealing with, and I imagine it's not going to be one and done, but I'm just reissuing it again. Lastly, the last thing I promise, number 9, correspondence. You got great piece of information from the Hanover Area Council of Churches. Homelessness is becoming a bigger issue in the borough, right? And something that I'm working with Dr. Peck on, as Mary knows as well, it's a big issue. One thing that we would need as an organization is trying to make homelessness better in the community is in January was the point in time where we go and count where we go to. We're asking for great, working together for us between the borough and those initiatives. You will get more information coming forward in the coming months, I promise you. But please take the time to read through that correspondence. It's great information, and please contact the people that vote on our homeless shelter here in the borough and ask them to do more. Our homeless shelter in the borough is the most restrictive of the entire county and is not open 24/7, right? They say no to grant money, 0% matching grant money because of how restrictive they are and how they vote. You have a voice for our community. Please do what you can as politicians and talk to them to try to make the relationship better. Thank you. If you have any questions of those 3, of course, I'll be here afterwards.
Okay, community media, is there anyone online who would like to speak?
Those joining us via Zoom is now able to unmute your mics if you would like to address council.
I think he just wants us to be aware of them.
Sure. This is Aaron Seidel, 327 West Elm Avenue. I just want to mention something kind of off of Isaac's point. I was looking at, I had asked in August about getting, hold on 1 second. All right, everybody here is getting an echo. Hello.
Tell him to continue.
We're hearing you.
Awesome, cool. So I was looking, I had asked for kind of more detailed budget that was going to be going over in kind of text format. And then I was told in August that won't be available till November. So instead I was looking through the monthly reports of the last couple months as well as the last couple years. And it looks like at this point in the year, the library was only about 22% of the we set aside for them, as opposed to previous years where they were well over we had budgeted for at this point in the year. So, kind of off the point, success of the library is having a real impact on the budget, and I think we should applaud them for it.
Okay. Anyone else online to address council? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. We'll move into agenda item 2. That will be the acknowledgement of executive session. We had one, and I'll let the solicitor tell you why.
Council had an executive session this evening from 6:45 to 7:04 involving the following items under section 7081, 4, and 5 of the Sunshine Act. Number 1, the appointment of an interim library director and an update on litigation involving 206 York Street.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move into budget presentation, second draft. That would be by Finance Director Shelton.
All right. Tonight, I'm going to provide council with a summary update from the preliminary budget that was presented at the September budget workshop. The final full presentation of the budget, similar to this from last year, the 50-page document will be presented to the council in we expect any additional changes between now and November at the next reading of the budget. We'll keep you informed of those changes. So tonight, you're just going to get a summary. This is just a two-page summary. And I'd like to go through that. If you turn to the first page, which is the governmental profit and loss. This format you had seen last time at the budget workshop, and I'll just go through it very quickly just as the format. At the top in the green section is the activity type, the description, and then each of the funds. This is the general fund, the library fund, liquid fuels, recreation board, library endowment, recreation endowment, and the governmental capital projects fund. So these make up the governmental funds. Going down vertically, first section is our revenues. Excuse me, at the top is our beginning cash balance. So we're going to be expecting to start out the year with about $23.4 million in cash and investments. Next section is revenues. We're anticipating about $23.17 million in revenues next year. Next section is our expenses. We're expecting about $30.2 million in expenses next year, of which $9.9 million is our capital expenditures, and a good chunk of that is related to the building renovations. The balance at the end of the year, as far as the cash balance, that's something that's important to everybody. We said we'll start out with $23.4 million. We'll end up with $20.5 million in reserves at the end of next year. So we still are going to have a very healthy reserve for the governmental funds going forward and beyond 2025. Take a look down at the bottom of the page. There's 4 sections in there, or 3 sections I want you to look at. One's revised results, the prior results which you were presented in September, and the difference, as well as a detail of adjustments. So I'll go through each of the funds. First of the general fund, our expected operating deficit increased by $117,000 from September to $308,244. Library fund stays the same. It's fully subsidized by the general fund, so we have no change there. Liquid fuels did not change too much. In fact, you can go all the way over, and you can see at the far right-hand side that our expected net operating deficit for the governmental funds is going to be $271,000 at this point. That's an increase of $117,000 from our September presentation. Really what changed for the budget from September, that's in the detail of budget adjustments. The general fund revenue, we increased our interest income by about $200,000. Interest rates are still pretty high, and we have proceeds from the bond borrowings for the building renovations, as well as the expected bank short-term loan next year. So we anticipate our interest income to increase, so we increased that by $200,000, as well as our year-to-date results of our parking revenues are much better, and so we raised that by another $50,000. So the general fund, we increased our revenues by about $250,000. In the capital fund, revenue decreased, and the grant revenue by $96,000. We just adjusted what we expect to realize and recognize in 2025 in grant revenue, so that's reduced $96,000. We did have a decrease in the capital fund expenses from the library improvements. We have the library improvements. One is our HVAC system that actually does have a grant that we have secured. There was supposed to be additional changes to the library of about $400,000. We still have not secured grant funding for that, and so if we don't get the grant funding, that would be deferred. So I did take that out at this point. If we do hear back before the end of the year that we're going to get grant funding, we'll add that back in. And then we also did get an update from our insurance carrier that we're in an insurance pool, but the rates that we anticipated to have at this September workshop were lower than expected. So we had to increase that, and it increased our health insurance expenses for all the governmental funds by $366,000. But overall, from an operating standpoint, our deficit right now is at $271,000, but I remind you from last year, 2024, we had over almost a $3 million deficit for 2024. So we really have improved where we're and closing that gap towards a balanced budget for next year. Any questions on the governmental?
Jim, on the insurance, if you don't know it, I understand, but approximate increase, that 366 increase over last year on a percentage basis.
Originally, I think we had estimated, and maybe Amy knew the number, I think we were we had an 8% increase we first estimated, and I think it's going to come in at about 9.6%.
Okay. Thank you.
Which is less than a lot of organizations that are on their own with the carrier. This pooling approach does benefit us, there's no doubt about
For
it.
what it's worth, I entertained a proposal for 40%. Not kidding.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt it. The second page, the proprietary funds. The results improved on a consolidated basis. We're anticipating the net income for all the proprietary funds to be at $2,044,000, up from the $1.725 million, our first estimate, which is a difference of $318,000. Some of the things that improved that, or the improvement side, was a change of our capital outlay for the water filtration plant. We're looking at those improvements for 2024 instead of 25. All funds, though, did have an expense increase, same as the governmental funds, so they did absorb that. But even with that, we're anticipating a higher net profit for the proprietary funds, which is good news. It's good to see the profits there. So I just wanted to give you a quick summary update since we just had the workshop 3 weeks ago. So I didn't want to drag you through all the different slides, but in November, we're going to go through the detail so you could see every bit of it, because I want you to understand it before you plan to adopt the budget in December. And that's all I had.
Okay. Anybody, anything for Jim? Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Rupp, you're going to introduce some junior council person candidates to us.
Yes, we are.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm excited. We have two new kids with us, hopefully for 2 years.
All right.
And I just want to review the junior council person program. It was started back in 1999 by Wellsville Borough, Erie County started it. And since then, there have been a lot of boroughs like we have adopted junior council program. And the purpose is for youth to see how local government works and to maybe see if maybe they might want to sometime be on a local government, or they might want to do something with local government. We have two wonderful candidates that are coming with us. We have Alexis Day and Noah Chronister. I've asked them each to come to the table and just talk a little bit about themselves and what they're involved in at school. Alexis is a homeschool student, which is really sort of interesting, and Noah goes to Hanover High School. So when you pull a chair up there, one of you sit and just, who's going to start? Or point fingers. And I met with both these kids, and I think they're going to be interesting candidates and really give us their opinions from time to time. Who's going to start? No?
I'll go first. My name is Noah Chronister. I'm a junior at Hanover High School, and I'm interested in learning about how the local government works in Hanover and just seeing how it works.
What activities are you involved in?
So I'm class president, and I'm involved in student council, Tri-M Honor Society, which is the music honor society, and then Key Club as well.
Class president, that's very good. You can help us with the parliamentary procedure. Good. And Alexis?
Hi, my name is Alexis Day. I'm a junior in online school. I'm interested to come here. I'm hoping to go into law and politics one day. I'm interested to learn more about how local politics works and hope to expand my knowledge for the future.
Any particular activities you're involved in, Alexis?
I am currently volunteering with UMPC Pediatric Rehab. I do a few hours a week. I'm also involved in student council and 3 different National Honor Societies, as well as a leadership society.
Great, okay. Well, we're happy that you're here. Does anybody have any questions of them? We're just happy we have 2 kids that are interested.
Well, I just want to ask, how many kids are on the student council?
It is around 20 kids.
20?
Yeah. It's 5 per grade that get voted in by each class at the end of each school year, and then they petition on at the beginning of the school year. So that's coming up soon. So it'll probably increase a couple kids.
So what kind of issues are you guys deciding on the student council?
We usually just go over like school events, and like we set up the school events a lot. So that's normally what we do.
Do you vote?
Yeah, we vote for like decisions in that.
Is it usually pretty unanimous?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do y'all want to do for a career after school?
I'm thinking about going to college for mechanical engineering and doing something in that.
I'm kind of in between right now, going somewhere, ending up in law, and then ending up going to med school. So I'm kind of on the fence with the 2.
You got some time to figure it out.
So they'll be with us next week too, and then after that, so any other questions? We're just happy they're interested. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, we'll be thrilled. We'll be thrilled.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Good job, guys.
Good job.
Okay, at this time, the chair requests a motion for the approval of the consent agenda items under 5 on your printed agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, Brian. Any conversation? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move into agenda item 6, that being water resources. Mr. Maines?
Good evening. So a couple items here under water resources tonight. We'll start with the water filtration plant. So as you're aware, the water filter plant right now is without heat. And that's problematic on a couple different levels operationally, and then certainly we don't like to have our staff in unconditioned spaces. So we have been working through the logistics of how to get heat out there. We had tried to repair the system that was out there. It is using a fuel oil-based system out there. They're no longer servicing it. It's just too hard to get the parts, and they're basically saying it's kind of done. So we basically have now figured out that what we need is actually an electric system that's going to be much more efficient for us, give us a little bit more control over some of those costs because we can shop our energy supplier and things like that. So one of the struggles that we've had is, as you're aware, we're getting into the cold season. So we're sort of running out of runway as it is. And normally the process for doing this, and perhaps for our new junior council people, is you have to put that out, you have to bid that, you have to take in competitive bids. And certainly that means putting together a bid package. That means then going to council, getting approval to bid it. You have a couple months in advertising, then opening, then awarding. The whole process can end up taking about 3 to 4 months till you actually get anything done. What we're doing is actually a process that this borough used previously with the roof on this building, which was the Keystone Procurement Network, or KPN it's called. And basically what it is they've already done all of the pre-vetting. They've already done the bidding out among contractors, and then ultimately a contractor holds the contract for a particular trade or a particular industry. And so in this particular case, Lobar holds the contract that would be the one who would do the work. They will then pull any subs that they need in to help them, whether it's an electrical sub or a plumbing sub. So at this point in time, what we're looking for is approval to replace. Basically, we'll have 15 electric systems out there. If you remember from your tour of the water filter plant, it's not a nice, neat room. It's a series of rooms, and they're separated in different buildings and things like that. And so we actually went through with the folks from Lobar to make sure that we were getting the right units in the right places at the right sizes. And so those 15 are not all the same size. They're varying sizes given the spaces that they have to heat. In some cases, we actually have 2 units that are actually at different ends of the long spaces. Again, if you'll remember, some of those larger filter buildings have a lot of length to them. And so to get that heated is kind of difficult. So One other thing that I would offer is we did try to see if we could maybe do some of the work ourselves to try and keep some of the costs down. So we did go down the sort of proverbial rabbit hole looking at, well, could we maybe run some of the electrical conduit and do some of that work ahead of time? We had a meeting this week with Lobar on site. We met with their electrical contractors. We took our staff out there. It's just not going to work. It's too big of a project for our guys to try and do while they're also trying to run a filter plant. And so that means I'd have to bring them in either the evening or the weekends. And then we start looking at things like overtime costs. The other thing too is, our filter treatment plant operators are good at their job. They're not electrical contractors. And when you look at some of that piping and conduit and things out there, these aren't straight runs, like just running here and ending. It's up and around and through things. And we certainly want to make sure that this is ultimately code compliant, it meets all the regulations that it needs to. So we did go back to the KPN network and ask them to bring that into the scope of work. And so what you had on your agenda was an ask for $109,000. With the conduit and all of that electrical work added in, now that number's at $147,000. The funding for this is actually coming from the money that had been allocated to the Sluice Gate project. So if you'll remember, we had put aside a certain amount of money thinking that we were going to take on the Sluice Gate project at LBS on our own. We were very fortunate. We got SRBC grant money for that. So now we're able to peel some of that money away because it had been put in this bucket, and we're actually going to pull from that and put it in here because, again, this is not really something that we can be discretionary with and say, oh, well, maybe we'll do that next year. We need to get this done very quickly.
This is a must. What was the original age of the present heating system? Do you know how old it was?
I don't. I just know some of it is actually original to the plant. I mean, some of these are the old school cast iron radiators hanging on the wall and have fuel lines feeding them.
And the life expectancy of what we're doing now, what can we expect?
The new units? Mm-hmm. I think I saw on a sheet there a 15 to 20-year unit, so they're pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
And these units, they're called Resner heat units. They actually match some of the other electrical units that we have in there, have been in there for some time. And they're operating good. We've not had any maintenance issues with them. What's nice and what you've heard me preach about before is we're trying to get consistency in our equipment across different plants and facilities so that we're not dealing with type A over here and type B here. We're just dealing with type A. That way our staff knows how to fix them when they can. And when we have to bring contractors in, it's much easier to get somebody to fix them.
Is there any warranties on this system?
There will be warranties through Lobar for the installation of the equipment. I believe that's a 12-month warranty on that. And then there's manufacturing warranties on the units. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what that number is, but there are
But you'll have
warranties.
some idea by the time, you'll have that information. You'll have that information at some time.
Yeah, I can give that to you. One of the things that is a little different because of the nature of what we're doing, I am asking for council to approve this tonight versus tonight into next week and then waiting. And the sole reason for that is I'm trying to collapse the time frame to get the contract executed so that I can get Lobar out on site. If council is able to approve tonight, we're looking at the first week of November is the soonest I can get Lobar on site. Our staff is out there right now. They actually were working today to demolish the broken equipment, pull it out, try to free up some of the hangars of, reuse them where we can. So, we really, a week seems short, but it's very long in terms of what we're trying to do.
So this system does accommodate part of the old system. In other words, it mates well.
Old system's gone.
But didn't you say that?
Some of the units are still there.
I'm sorry. Some of the electric part that is in
Okay.
some of the filter is staying, I'm sorry,
Is
yes.
staying,
But
okay.
all of the fuel oil system, all of that in the old plant, that's all going to be removed.
Okay, thank you, Margie.
I'll make a recommendation to approve that this evening.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll call into question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next item under drought contingency plan, so I'll let the solicitor jump in if he wants to, but basically, if you'll recall, this board had asked us to complete a safe yield study. And so we went out, we did the safe yield study. One of the other things that was asked also was, while we're doing safe yield, let's update our drought contingency plan. Let's make sure that we have a good plan that helps us understand what we need to do in the case of drought, who needs to be notified, how are we going to make sure that we're protecting our system and those things. So the first step of that is, once you prepare that drought contingency plan, is actually to now send that to DEP. DEP has to approve it before we can approve it. And so what's asked of you tonight is not necessary to approve the plan that's going to go in place. I'm asking you to approve the draft so that I can send it to DEP, have them review it. If offer any comments on it, come back to us, and then we'll have to adopt and add it into our ordinances.
I'm going to so motion on that, Bill.
I have a question. Okay, I'll
Sure.
hold that, but question quick. Are the two of those linked at the current time? The safe yield as well as the drought contingency?
No.
Okay,
they're not.
so this
No,
is,
they're standalone.
you know why my question?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
They're standalone.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yep, I'll second it.
Any discussion?
It's a good draft.
All in favor of the approval of the drought contingency plan for submittal to DEP, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mays.
That's here because I'm on 7A too. Popular to me.
Okay, now we'll have the ratify the building construction change order update.
So, if you'll recall, last month, council adopted a policy on how to handle change orders. And if you'll remember, one of the concerns that I brought to was that as we're dealing things in the construction world across the street, we don't have time to wait a month in between. Sometimes we need to keep those tradesmen moving very quickly. So these are 3 change orders that have come up. They have followed the policy. Each of them, fits inside one of those levels. Ultimately, these levels are all small enough that Margie was able to actually authorize them, but we do have to bring them back to you to answer questions and to, quote, have them ratified. So at this point, I did give you a memo in your packet that offered a kind of an explanation of what they were. I will certainly do my best if you have questions about those, but the ask is for council to ratify these so that we can complete the process.
I don't have a question about them. I just have a question. Are we close to the end of demo?
We are finished with
Yeah.
demo.
Oh,
Yep.
demo's done.
Yeah, we finished with demo. The contractors right now, we've moved into framing, drywalling, and I believe next week the electrical contractors are back on site to start doing some of the rewiring and connections of things, so, yeah.
Are these amounts included in that 3.1, or is it over and above?
So the way a change order works is it's over and above, and what you try to do is, you try to keep it to within a manageable percent. So right now, we're operating at about a 0.4% change order rate, which is unheard of. That's very, very good for a project of this size. So this is wood, we'll knock on it here. But alluding to, certainly demo, when you look at your risk for change orders in a project like this, the curve goes up very steeply at first. Once you get into new construction, it kind of tapers off because now you're just building new things and you're not as exposed to as much risk. But certainly as we peeled back ceilings, as we cut through walls and we were able to get a good set of eyes on things, these are some of the change orders that came about. We do have one that's going to be coming to you soon that's actually to the better. And so again, staff is constantly looking at these things and trying to find ways. We did have one where we actually had the instant to offer a positive change order, so that will actually subtract from some of these things, and we will continue to do that throughout the course of the project.
Those are the ones we really like to see.
I figured. I wish they were all the ones I could bring to you. So I bring you some, but bring you the other ones to help equal them
Make
out.
some deals. Yeah.
Okay, we've had a good explanation. Now it's time to act. Is there a motion to
So
ratify?
motion, Bill.
It's
So
been moved. Is
motion.
there a second to ratify?
Carol, second it.
All in favor of ratification of the change orders, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. I assume you're done now, sir.
Nope, you got me for 7C, but I'll take it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're taking a break. Interim library director stipend.
Amy?
Ms. who?
Hello.
Hello.
As explained in your memo and discussed in executive session today, with the resignation of our previous library director, we are required to appoint an interim library director, and at the former library director's suggestion and Margie and I had a lot of discussion about it and felt like it was a really great idea. We are asking you to appoint Matt Perkins, our current Parks and Rec Director, as the interim library director. And as we've done in the past, we're offering for those additional responsibilities a $1,000 stipend per month for taking over those additional roles.
Okay, so the motion that the chair is looking for would be naming Matt Perkins as the interim director, as well as then approving his stipend for said services at $1,000 per month. Is there a motion for said?
No motion.
Thank you, Councilor Greenholt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second online or to my right. Any further conversation? I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilor Fuentes, did you vote? I didn't hear you.
He seconded.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Mr. Maines, you know the way.
No, I didn't.
So, as you're aware, and as you certainly heard with the budget proposals and things at your workshop, a lot of what we're able to do and what we try to do is position this borough to be the recipient of grant money. One of the grant programs that has actually opened up, that Delta has actually brought to us, is the Main Street Matters grant. And this is a DCED offered grant, and it focuses on things that improve your community, improve your downtown. And so one of the things, as we talked about this with Delta, was, we have at the end of our project with 33 and 44, we have this sort of middle area, our streetscape between the two that we've always talked about. Well, how do we make that so that it's welcoming and connecting? We know that we're going to have use of the one parking lot, certainly. We have this new public safety facility where we sit now, and then we're going to have the new public admin piece at 33. So this grant fits very nicely with the idea of connecting those two spaces together, and it offers, they offer up to $1 million. That's a bit more than we want to bite off. So what I'm suggesting to you is something where we would ask them for $350,000. The other portion of this, it is a 50-50 match. So one of the things that I've proposed is to bring into the equation some of your parking revenue money that we have. Certainly we've had conversations at multiple levels about, we've got this money, we're pulling it in, let's start to make our parking lots better. And this would be a way that we can do that, because certainly we have a whole suite of improvements we want to make to the parking lot out here. The other half of the money would come from the Stormwater Authority, because one of the other things too is, we certainly have to be stewards of what we tell people, which is, look, you have to manage your stormwater. If you go out in our parking lot right now, it's not managed. It just kind of runs all over the place, ultimately ends up down towards Exchange Place. And so this is an opportunity for us to kind of practice what we preach. And bringing stormwater into it is a good way too for these grants. It makes you more attractive because it shows a sort of collaboration with multiple layers of government. So the ask is to basically have council approve the resolution so that we can go after this funding. It's due, we have to have the applications in mid-November. I don't anticipate that we would spend the funds, though, probably till 26. I don't want to go make the parking lots and sidewalks and things good while we're in the middle of a construction project that I'm putting dumpsters on them and kind of messing things up. So the construction of this project for public safety is a 2025 into early part of 26 project. So this grant money, if we're able to get it, would fund the project that would happen in the early part of 26.
And if we don't get the grant?
If we don't get the grant, we'll scale things back and we'll look for other sources. Again, we still always have the parking revenue that we can use for the parking lot, but you've heard me say to you time and time again, I want to take $1 and get you 10. I want to take your money and leverage it in a way that we get to do better things for our community. But if at the end of the day we don't get the grant money, then we'll do the improvements that are necessary and we'll do it.
Were there any other grants out there that did not require a matching grant?
Are there any?
Are there any?
The EPA Community Change Grant that you're pursuing right now is not a required match. Now, we are putting some match into it because we want to make ourselves more attractive. So we're actually putting, I think, $50,000 into that one. But that's a zero mandated match for that grant program.
In other words, you don't have to match if you don't wish.
Yeah.
to-
Mhm,
Or you
yeah.
do have to match?
No, you don't have to match if you don't want to, but
And what was the amount in that matching?
for EPA.
Or non-matching? Yeah,
Oh, for the EPA,
mhm,
that's a $20 million grant we're chasing.
20 million.
So if I can put 50,000 and get you 20 million, those are good odds. I'll take those.
Mm.
Other grants, CDBG is a no match for us, and that's a one that we get $300,000 every 3 years, I think it is. That's what's paying for the Doss Alley project. It's being, if you saw it on the way in here, you saw the construction fencing and everything. That's what's paying for that. That's a zero match. So we use that one a lot. There's a variety of programs. We try to vet them all, and you kind of do this weighing act of, look, am I really going to get a good return out of what I have to put into this? And, you know, again, if this one at a 50-50, if you're able to pull this out, split those funds across two different entities, that's a pretty strong play, I think. And
Okay,
we have a
so-
pretty high likelihood of getting it, just given the nature of it, what it is. And we've actually been doing some pre-positioning with the people who award this grant as well. We've had them down. They've actually viewed some of our facilities. So this is a good opportunity to kind of show them what we're all about.
Okay, so we have to have a matching grant of 175,000, correct?
So council would commit to 175 from the parking money. That's what you would put into it as a council.
How much do we have in the parking money, that were our revenue?
I don't have a number to give you.
We did get that number.
How much?
$250,000 this year.
36,000?
250.
250,000. Oh,
Yep.
that sounds much better. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
I noticed that the resolution doesn't have a number, and I see that the written resolution says $1 million. What,
The million, that's a stock resolution, so the million is the cap in the program. I didn't put a number in it yet until we had this conversation.
okay,
But
'cause-
once we go, then we'll revise that for sure.
got it.
I like we're using parking lot money, because we talked about
Amen.
using parking lot funds to fix our parking lots. Does that
And,
make
and to
sense?
take them and be able to leverage them to
Yeah.
get you more money is an even
Great.
better way to do it.
Counselor Fuentes, you had a comment, I think?
Eric, when you say scaling back, does that mean, you know, in case we don't get the grant, you have a contingency plan for that, or is that something you'll develop when we get there?
The contingency plan would be that, you know, we're gonna have to fix the parking lot regardless, but we might not put some of the elements of the streetscape in. You know, we might simply fix up the sidewalks, make them, you know, ADA accessible, you know, make sure there aren't any other issues with them. We'll clean the parking lot up as best we can, and, you know, we would go that route. And I think, again, you're gonna have these nice new buildings with these nice new facades and things. It's a bit anticlimactic then to have kind of the middle piece just sort of be flat. So if we have an opportunity to really clean this up, I think it's worth taking.
But either way, if we don't get the grant.
We'll get it done.
We would, I love
We'll get
that
it done.
positiveness. But just in case something should happen, we would put in what would be affordable to our budget at this time, is what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
Probably still would pull from parking revenue money because it's the source, but it would just be a one-to-one spend. You know,
Where is all that money going from the parking lot
Where is it
revenue?
going?
Yeah, what do we normally,
Probably a better question for finance director than me.
Paid for activities in the general fund such as public works, it's all part of the general
get
fund.
spread around?
Right, it gets spread around, correct. So it's supporting the general operations of the general governmental funds.
How long can we afford matching grants?
How,
Within, yeah, because I'm always looking for the freebie grants that give us a great opportunity also if we don't have to match, because as we continue to match, we continue to cut into the budget. And that may help us, sometimes may not. So, you know, financially, okay, as a businesswoman, I am looking at the negativity side of a matching grant. In other words, continuing to get these matching grants. You only got so much money to do this.
If you remember, one of the things I offered to you during the budget workshops was that I do think in this coming year, we do need to create sort of a vetting tool for these pursuits, you know, when we go after grants. I think we need to look at things like, where's the match? Where's it coming from? What is that return on the investment? You know, is this something we were going to do anyway? I think there needs to be some sort of a matrix developed that we can plug into these things, and it will help inform the decisions we make. To your point about, do we have the money to spend for that? That's a conversation we can bring, the finance department into.
Well, it's a good idea, and when do we expect to put this into play to further?
Second
No, I want to do it. I think it's
Agreed.
a great idea, but when are we
Yeah.
going to put it into play? And have we all taken time to consider this, that we do this, that we go?
Yeah, I think for this one, I would tell you, we know that the parking revenue money is there. I think from the Stormwater Authority side, our funds there are healthy. We have been talking at Stormwater Authority that we really need to start getting some projects in the ground, in the downtown specifically, to really show the good that money can be put towards. So in this particular case, I think you have two funding sources that are pretty sound.
Well, taking the 175,000 into consideration, and we use it in other ways, means, and forms for our borough, is that in any way cutting back on other areas that we normally would have funded with this? Seriously.
I'll just give you a quick answer, and
It's
I
not
think
his
that.
question to answer,
No,
to
but
be fair.
No, I was looking over
I
it.
can tell you this much, that I think,
Jim.
again, this is a 26 spend. We're pursuing in 25. I don't anticipate expending the funds until 26. So that gives us plenty of time for Jim to build that in, bake that into the sauce, build that into the budget, make sure that things can move around. It also gives you a whole nother year of parking revenue money to come in towards it. So even if you put some from this year's and some from next year's, that way it doesn't take as big of a hit.
Good answer. Thank
Councilor
you.
Funk, I think the question you were asking it's your question to answer, as in council's question. Council's role
Yeah, I'm
is
looking
to
at council
decide,
right now. I
do
said,
we put $175,000 into a parking project, or do we put it into this project or that project? We
Right.
ultimately need
I mean,
to have
does it limit us in other
Certainly, yeah, anytime we spend
budgeted
$1
items?
here that
Right.
we don't get funded, we
Thank
take
you.
$1 from somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Maines. Any further questions? I will ask for a motion then for the consideration, that being the Main Street Matters Grant. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Counselor Rupp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Counselor Clunk. Any further discussion? All in favor of the consideration, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Are there any reports of council to highlight verbally at this time?
I don't have a report, but I have some information that was passed on to me at an event, and I would go to this, but I'm not available. It's a free day that it's Join York County Community for a VIP donor event. You really follow, transportation is an important issue in our community. A lot of people don't have the proper transportation to get to places where they need to get food, clothing, that kind of thing. So the Rabbit people, York County Community Foundation, is sponsoring this Get on the Bus Day with Rabbit Transit and New Hope Ministries to experience a day in the life of the local commuter. And you'll learn of the changes. And then also, I didn't realize this, but New Hope Ministries in Dover has loaner vehicles for individuals that can loan, because a lot of these folks that don't have a car don't know how to drive. So these loaner vehicles, and then they can, if they can also buy them if they eventually can. But it's a free event on October 21st, 1 to 4. There will be food served, so there'll be snacks if anybody's interested in that. But maybe somebody on our borough team wants to go, but maybe someone on the council wants to go. I have 3 of these if anybody wants. I'll give them to Margie if you want them. It looks like an event that we can learn something from. I would go, but I'm not going to be here that day. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. At this time, I'll move into our final public comment portion. We do have Sandy Mao with us, who would like to address council.
It'll be short this evening. I recently received a copy of the lease agreement between the Borough Council and the Historical Society. And along with a gentleman by the name of Colin, who testified in the winter meeting about this lease, I also have found that there was no deposit, there's no financial statements, and there's no obligation to complete the lease. I'm going to go further. This is not your typical landlord-tenant agreement. And I draw your attention to section 7.1, the first sentence. Tenant shall have free and uninterrupted access to the leased premises and driveways, parking areas, and other common areas of the property at all times. Now, there's been some issues again. A gentleman from the Historical Society went into the adult stacks and removed books and decided he did not need to check them out. He took them. A patron came in looking for the book. Staff could not locate book. 2 days later, mail returns book. When asked why he had taken the book without checking it out, he said, I just wanted to have something to read. Well, isn't that why we all use the library? We go to the stacks, we select a book or a magazine, newspaper, whatever it is. If we want to remove it from the library, we have to sign it out. So, please address that situation. Secondly, again, an item has been removed. I last saw it on Saturday afternoon at the bottom of the stairway leading to children's and teens, which had always, it was like a kiosk that had all the activities planned for the children and the teens. Nice display. Arrive mid-afternoon on Monday, and it's gone. At the landing, between the stairs, is a piece of cardboard, this big, with some of those postings on it. No one noticed that it had been gone. And I said, what happened to the kiosk? Well, what are you talking about? So everybody's scurrying around. No one knows what happened to the kiosk. Then we have the inflammatory rhetoric. Again, a woman from the Historical Society. On Saturday, I'm minding my own business doing research for this situation, and she comes up and she says, I'm going to walk all over this library. I don't know what you're hoping to achieve by allowing that kind of dissent. I'll be kind. In my experience with rental agreements, if there's a community area, you have access to it, but you are not allowed to remove any items from that common area.
Can I ask you to wrap it up, Sandy?
I'm almost finished. This agreement appears to be more like a rental with an option to buy. So I'm here tonight to ask if you have engaged in any conversations, if you have made any decisions to sell the 2 Library Place property. To the Historical Society, to any entity, to any individual. Are you in the process of doing that now?
No.
Thank you, that's all I have for you.
Thank you. Anyone online wish to comment a second time?
No.
Those joined via Zoom is now able to unmute and address council one last time.
Okay, seeing none, I will
Bill.
close public comment. Yes?
I have one question. I've been getting calls in my ward about the barrels over on Chestnut Street, AJ, and that on one day, the word got back to me that the barrels were thrown all over the road. Is that true?
I'm not sure. Sometimes they do get hit by moving traffic. They're always replaced and reset.
Wouldn't they do damage to a car?
It's possible.
And the other question coming back to me is how long is this going to remain with the barrels?
So we covered that in Public Safety Committee, and a committee voted to keep that as is while we look into the cost of the traffic study. And we are waiting to see if we get a grant to cover that. Because the consensus is that the lane will have to be closed off. The idea is to not open it back up, just to close it back off again.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make this public, Bill, so that the people know
Got an
out there,
answer.
because they're asking questions. Thank you, AJ. Can you keep us up to date on that then? Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, sir. Take your
woke up.
Yeah, you did.
No, I've been here the whole time.
Okay.
All in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? No. We're adjourned. See you, Scott.